That's me. Hello, you fucks. Welcome to John Solo's Beer Brigade. I'm John Solo. You are not, and time for another story time. This one is, well, it's a new client to me, Morticia Knight. She was on Talk to the Beard 5 or 6 months ago. I don't know how long. I'm not very good with time. I'm not very good with combing my beard today either. I've been working all day. It's Sunday. It's the 17th of April, 2022. Apparently today was Easter. I don't pay much attention to such things. I just know that I've been working all day. So, and for the love of God, I've had a great time too. Boy Issues. This is Command and Care Book 1. It's the start of well, it's not a brand new series. This book has been out for a while, but a new series to me. And of course, we're going to be continuing on with these, I hope. Morticia Knight is a new client to me. As I said, she came on Talk to the Beard a while back, and I really liked her. We have a lot in common. She is, well, I'm a musician and I'm an audio engineer, but she's like a real musician. She's a super big time vocalist. She's amazing. And she let me do her series. So this has been a long time in the making. This was actually supposed to be done about a month and a half ago. We kind of fell behind on a couple of the projects over the last couple of months, and this is one of two that we had to make up. Morticia, I love you. Thank you so much for allowing me to continue on with the series. And don't worry, we'll be back on track soon. Anyways, enough of the back end shit for you guys. Let me pull up the blurb here. I will tell you, and you guys are going to like this too. One has the golden touch, the other buys whatever he wants. When love races in, which man will end up on top? 26-year-old Silver Cruz loves working on fast cars, but finding the right boy to care for eludes him. When a handsome older man's performance ride breaks down nearby, the hunky mechanic is quick to bring his magic fingers to the rescue and get him going. However, the pushy snob's expectation of a casual quickie makes Silver put a speed bump between him and a sizzling jump between the sheets. Boy Issues is the first book in the seductive Command and Care MM Romance Daddy Boy series and can be read as a standalone. Each installment features a different couple, and the series is connected through the common theme of daddy care, or we should say poppy care in this one. With Boy Issues, if you like lovers who almost become enemies, a stubborn boy, reverse age gap, and racy action, then you'll adore, wow, words are fucking hard. You'll adore Morticia Knight's Drive on the Wild Side. Buy Boy Issues to hear love's engine roar today. There you have it. This one was a lot of fun to work on, but it was a challenge. There was a lot of Spanish going on. I am not Spanish, nor do I speak it, but luckily I have a great crew around me. I'm just the face of things here, and that's a sad state of affairs. But really, it's the crew that does most of the work. So Jody, Trace, all the Brigadiers, thank you so much for being there as always. You all rock. Couldn't have done this without you. I hope you enjoy. I'm going to flip over to a live. I'm pretty sure this is chapter 5, but I made a mistake in the last story time, and I said the chapter wrong. So I think it's chapter 5. This is a live recording session you're going to be watching. There are going to be mistakes. I'm really not paying attention to the camera. I'm doing my thing. I'm chatting with the Discord crowd that's in all my live sessions. So be aware of that. You're a fly on the wall in a recording session. You'll hear Trace jump in occasionally and correct me. You'll hear me cuss, the whole 9 yards. So I hope you enjoy. Have fun, y'all. I love you. Chapter 5. Damn, what was it about Silver that had him so twisted up and on edge? They drove the short distance to the local bar. The fact that Silver stayed in the lead, not lost on him. He wasn't about to pull some sort of macho move and attempt to outrun him, so he stayed where he was. The realization that he didn't mind one bit and that Silver had clearly taken charge of their dynamic brought Donovan a measure of comfort. His arousal began to rise again as he remembered how forceful Silver could be. Donovan grinned. Good. Silver would want to top for sure. He hated it when guys expected him to take on that role. Once they reached their destination, Donovan noted there was only one space left in the tiny parking lot, and he assumed Silver would nab it. Normally that would irritate him, but this time he didn't mind. After all, he couldn't expect Silver to park such a fine classic like the red pony car on the street. However, right before the turn into the lot, Silver slowed. He pointed to the parking area, then pulled ahead before making a U-turn. Donovan blinked a few times as he processed what was going on. As Silver parallel parked across the street a few vehicles down, Donovan came to Donovan blinked a few times as he processed what was going on. As Silver parallel parked across the street a few vehicles down, Donovan came back to his senses. Silver was giving him the spot. Donovan squeezed the bins between the cars occupying the other two spaces and waited for Silver. He hoped to grab the door for him, or somehow bring them back to the place where Donovan was the host for the evening. Watching Silver's swagger as he approached made Donovan wish the empty side street was twice as wide. He could observe the man move all day long. As he approached made Donovan wish the empty side street was twice as wide. He could observe the man move all day long. Donovan's cock twitched in his khakis. Silver was like a living, breathing work of art. "You shouldn't have given me the space. Aren't you concerned, leaving her on the street like that?" Donovan found that his concern was genuine, and not much concerned him these days. "Give me the space. Aren't you concerned, leaving her on the street like that?" Donovan found that his concern was genuine, and not much concerned him these days. Silver didn't respond immediately. Instead, he regarded Donovan as though he were studying a bug. "Let's just say it's a force of habit in a situation like this." Donovan frowned. "I don't understand." "I know." Silver held open the heavy black door, then gestured for Donovan to go ahead. Damn it, how had Silver managed to get the jump on him? Donovan sighed, then followed his unspoken command. The interior of the Yellow Cat was a relatively simple layout in a very small structure, illuminated only by a row of dim lights that stretched across the bar. The interior of the Yellow Cat was a relatively simple layout in a very small structure, illuminated only by a row of dim lights that stretched across the top of the bar that was to the left of the entrance, and faux candles on the tabletops. The interior of the Yellow Cat was a relatively simple layout in a very small structure, illuminated only by a row of dim. The interior of the Yellow Cat was a relatively simple layout in a very small structure, illuminated only by a row of dim lights that stretched across the top of the bar that was to the left of the entrance, and faux candles on the tables that glowed within red glass holders. The place afforded Donovan the privacy he needed. Beyond the half-dozen tables in the center of the room were 3 booths against the back wall with even less light. Donovan was usually able to find discreet seating there to woo his potential conquests. "Follow me." Donovan liked a guy to take charge, but there were limits. He allowed Silver to slide in first, and took a seat across from him. If they were in a gay bar, he might have tried to sit next to him, but even if they were, he wasn't sure he'd have had... He allowed Silver to slide in first, and took a seat across from him. If they were in a gay bar, he might have tried to sit next to him, but even if they were, he wasn't sure he'd have had the courage, or Silver would have welcomed the attempt. As soon as they were both settled, Donovan discovered he was at a loss on how to proceed. Under normal circumstances, his witty repartee would have primed his date, and he'd merely continue to charm his target. However, nothing about his various interactions with Silver had been normal. Better to stay with something safe. Maybe a warm cup of chit-chat was in order. Then he'd be back to his regular self.
Stop. Maybe a warm-up.
Silver had been normal. Better to stay with something safe. Maybe a warm-up of chit-chat was in order. Then he'd be back to his regular self. "So," Donovan folded his hands on the table, "what can I get you to drink? They make an incredible dirty martini here, appearances notwithstanding." He pasted on what he hoped was a genuine smile. He could barely tell the difference anymore. "Or tequila, maybe? There are some excellent choices on top shelf." He could barely tell the difference anymore. "Or tequila, maybe? There's some excellent choices of top-shelf variety." He could barely tell the difference anymore. "Or tequila, maybe? There's some excellent choices of top-shelf varieties." "A beer would be fine, thanks." Donovan's flirt began to rise to the surface. "Oh, come on." "My treat." He winked. Silver's expression remained impassive. "A beer is fine. I don't drink anything harder than that when I'm driving." Donovan's flirt withered and died. "I see. Well, I'm not sure what they have available, but I'll find out, then let you know. Or He twisted his hands. If this place isn't all right, we can go somewhere else. Wherever you want. Donovan. He swallowed hard. Yes? Relax. Remember, whatever they have on draft is okay. Sure. He cleared his throat. I'll be right back. God, he was fucking up. He'd never stumbled over himself so badly with a guy before. Silver was going to assume he was just some rich idiot who was only out to get some tail. He winced. Actually, that wasn't too far from the truth. Why he should care was beyond him, but he couldn't help himself. Donovan got their drinks after spending a minute or two annoying. Why he should care was beyond him, but he couldn't help himself. Donovan got their drinks after spending a minute or two annoying the bartender by agonizing over the perfect beer choice, then returned to their booth. As he approached, Silver glanced up through the soulful eyes that made Donovan want to drop trowel and marveled how by agonizing over the perfect beer choice, then returned to their booth. Silver glanced up through the soulful eyes that made Donovan want to drop trowel and marveled how calm and at ease Silver appeared. I have returned. Donovan set down Silver's beer and his own martini.
Stop a minute. I think you missed a few words on your cut. As he approached, Silver glanced up.
I see what you're saying. Hang on. Through the soulful eyes that made Donovan want to drop trowel and marveled how... That was wrong, too. Don't tell them where you live, Anya. By agonizing over the perfect beer choice, then returned to their booth. As he approached, Silver glanced up through the soulful eyes that made Donovan want to drop trowel, and marveled how calm and at ease Silver appeared. I have returned. Donovan set down Silver's beer and his own martini, then slid back into the booth with as much elegance as he could. When he regarded Silver again, he noted Silver's amused expression. He pinched his lips together, irritation growing in how nonchalant Silver was about everything. Was Silver judging him? Over what? As if he wasn't always being scrutinized and picked apart as it was. Adding a guy he wanted to fuck to the equation wasn't what he had signed up for. He rubbed his eyes with his thumb and forefinger. The reality was that he was no longer sure what he had been expecting. Hey, look at me. Donovan leaned back, then lifted his gaze. He clutched the stem of the martini glass. Is the beer all right? Donovan wondered if he was so pissed because typically it was his date who was on edge and anxious to impress him. Being on the other side of that fence was infuriating. Silver sighed. It's just fine, thanks. He leaned forward, placing his elbows on the table. Listen, we're here, right? Let's get to know each other a little. I've had a long day, and I'd like to chill out a bit, you know? Donovan nodded, wiping his hand along his upper lip where beads of sweat had formed. He didn't remember this bar being so stuffy. Of course. He gave a nervous chuckle. You've probably been on your feet all day. He frowned. Have you? God, he knew nothing about this man, knew nothing about the world he must live in, or what mattered to him the most, other than cars. That surely had to be why Silver had finally agreed to meet up with him. Donovan exhaled. Okay, he could work with that. Silver just didn't want to feel as though he was being bought or manipulated, that's all. They'd get the small talk out of the way, he'd tease Silver with promises of driving one of his cars, then they could find somewhere to be alone. Silver stared at Donovan with the same intense gaze he'd been using on him all evening. Not the whole day. My boss recently dropped off a new car for me to work on, and I was making a list of parts I'd need to restore her, calling around to see who might have something I need, that type of thing. Oh, right, that man you told me about? The smallest twinge of jealousy coursed through Donovan, which was ridiculous. Silver took a swig of his beer. Yes. Mr. Jenkins has me under an exclusive contract with him. He buys the cars, I restore them. Donovan straightened in his seat. Wait, Carl Jenkins? He grinned. I've known Carl for years. I bought one of my babies from him. Donovan shook his head in wonder. Maybe you worked on it. Maybe. Which one? Frua?
I suppose. I do not know.
I like it when you say that, because that means I know I have to look it up. Norwegian.
Frua.
Frua. Frua. It's done. You might never see that friend again, honey. Maybe you worked on it. Maybe. Which one? It was a green 71 AC Frua convertible. Got it a couple years back. She's like a Jaguar on crack. Ay, Dios mío. Oh my God. Is that way, or is it... There's another way to say it. Okay. There seems like there's another... It seems like there's another way to say that, but... Ay, Dios mío. Oh my God. Silver made a soft whistle. I'd love to get a look at her sometime. That's a unique one. But no, that wasn't me. I've only been working for Carl a little over a year now. Well, too bad. Donovan grinned. I think I would have liked knowing you were the one who made her shine. Yeah. Silver gave Donovan the lopsided smile he enjoyed so much. I bet you would. Donovan licked his lips, his tongue barely brushing over the sensitive skin. So how does that work with Carl? You said it's an exclusive contract. Yeah. Silver rested his fingers on the glass handle of his almost empty mug. He bought a garage in Highland Park right off the 110. It used to be a local place, Chico's, but it went under a few years back. That's an apartment above the work area that I fixed up, so it's an all-inclusive deal. Silver grunted. Working home all in one place. Donovan wished he'd known Silver before Carl had gotten to him. And you can't work on anyone else's car, it's just his. Yep. And he makes that worthwhile for you? Donovan cleared his throat as he shifted on the bench seat. I know it's none of my business, but the diner job... Silver nodded. No, I get it. I've had a couple friends question why I sling burgers at night when I'm sometimes working 12 to 15-hour days if Carl has a show or client deadline I have to meet. He took another sip of his beer. But I'm putting money away. I don't have any family obligations, so now's the time to save for my future. Maybe Silver wasn't gay after all. Their conversation had taken somewhat of a dude turn. Or maybe he was bi, or experimenting, wanting to fool around while he was young and settle down with a wife and kids later on. That's commendable. I hope you still leave room to enjoy yourself now and again. Donovan took another sip of his drink, hoping to catch up to Silver. Maybe after he got a couple more beers into him, Donovan could steer Silver back into a more enjoyable direction. I have my moments. Hey, Charlotte. I have my moments. Long time. More enjoyable direction. I have my moments. Silver's expression had returned to being unreadable as Donovan wasn't sure where to go next with their conversation.
Stop. And?
Enjoyable direction. I have my moments. Silver's expression had returned to unreadable, and Donovan wasn't sure where to go next with their conversation.
Had returned to being unreadable.
You're being really picky about this sentence. More enjoyable direction. I have my moments. Silver's expression had returned to being unreadable, and Donovan wasn't sure where to go next with their conversation. What did this man want? Well, Donovan ran a hand across the top of his head. Sounds like you've got things figured out. That was a bit of good fortune that you got the position with Carl. There must have been tons of mechanics gunning for you, yet he chose you. Donovan held up his martini as if toasting him.
Gunning for it.
It's figured out. That was a bit of good fortune that you got the position with Carl. It's figured out. That was a bit of good fortune that you got the position with Carl. There must have been tons of mechanics gunning for it, yet he chose you. Donovan held up his martini as if toasting him. Congrats on that. I didn't apply. He came to me. Donovan's jaw went slack. How did he know about you? Silver gave a one-shouldered shrug. Carl used to come into the garage when I'd worked. How did he know about you? Silver gave a one-shouldered shrug. Carl used to come into the garage where I'd worked since I turned 18. After a while, I was the only guy he wanted touching his cars. If I wasn't available, he'd have a fit. Finally, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Donovan snorted. I hope there weren't any severed horse heads involved. Nope. Silver took another swig of beer. Just lots of cash. Wow. Donovan didn't know what else to say. The picture he had had in his head about Silver was way off. Judging from outward appearances, Silver was struggling, stuck slogging away at 2 jobs to eke out a living and hang on. Judging. Donovan knew what it was like when that critical eye was directed his way, yet he'd done the very same thing to Silver. He took a healthy slug of the vodka and olive juice, swallowing down the burn as he mused that not only had he judged Silver, but anyone else who wasn't wealthy and white-collar. Anyone who's different. The liquor swam in his gut, and he bemoaned the fact that he hadn't thought to get water when he'd been at the bar. What about you, Donovan? I get the impression you don't work in a garage or a diner. Donovan wasn't sure whether he was being mocked or not, but he didn't have the right to be mad, not when he'd just been harboring such unfair thoughts about Silver. Well, I'm not like Carl. I don't buy and sell high-end vehicles. I'm the CEO of Fonterra and Associates. Silver regarded him with a blank expression. Donovan cleared his throat and shifted on the worn but still well-maintained red pleather seat. It's an architectural firm. Been in the family for generations. Silver didn't appear affected by Donovan's declaration. That's quite a large responsibility. Sounds as though your family has placed a lot of trust in you by handing over the reins to the entire company. Well, it's a tad more complicated than that. He gave a shaky laugh. I'm not sure trust is the right word for how they view my contribution. Is it something you enjoy doing? What? Donovan frowned. It's not the type of job one... Donovan couldn't seem to remain still. What I mean is that it's not about enjoying the work as much as it's about making sure things stay running smoothly and, well, upholding the dignity of the family name. Silver's eyebrows arched, and Donovan couldn't blame him. Even he had no idea what he was talking about. And doing all that makes you happy. Donovan clenched his teeth together, then downed the rest of his drink in one gulp. Why the fuck were they having some soul-searching discussion when all Donovan had set out to do that evening was to fuck and forget, to have a few drinks, a few laughs, and lose himself in the scent and feel of another man, to be so thoroughly used that he'd have the will to face another pointless day. His goddamn family was the last thing he wanted to talk about. He wasn't asking about your family. Jesus. Donovan kneaded his forehead. One of his... I wasn't asking about your family. Jesus. Donovan kneaded his forehead, one of his constant headaches threatening to further ruin his evening. He sucked in a deep breath. So I'm going to grab myself another drink. Are you ready for another beer yet? Silver's features were no longer a blank mask. His eyes were narrowed and his brow slightly creased. What's wrong, Donovan? Donovan laughed. No longer a blank mask. His eyes were narrowed and his brow slightly creased. What's wrong, Donovan? Donovan laughed, but it came out half-strangled. Nothing's wrong. Just want to get the party going." He winked, forgetting how his little move hadn't charmed Silver earlier. He was rewarded with a scowl. "I'm not sure what you mean by that, Donovan. If you don't want to talk about your job, I respect that. We can move to another topic. But there's something you should know about me before we continue hanging out. I don't make idle talk, and I don't play games. My time is too valuable for that." Donovan snorted. What an ass. "Oh, really? Your time is too valuable? I doubt there's a comparison." Silver leaned back against the booth and shook his head, regarding Donovan as if he were a silly child. "I'm not having a contest with you, Donovan. Everyone's time is valuable, but not everyone treats their time that way. I was stating a fact. I wanted to clarify with you that I do. That's all." "Whatever. Hunk or no hunk, Silver might be more trouble than he was worth. Do you want another drink or not?" Silver smiled with maddening sincerity, the anger Donovan had spewed not seeming to faze him one bit. Donovan cringed. Maybe he was acting like a child. "No, thank you. One drink is my limit." Donovan lowered his... "No, thank you. One drink is my limit." Donovan lowered his eyes, shame washing over him. With the few words, Silver had held up a mirror to him, and Donovan was terrified that he finally was becoming his father, the one thing he'd fought against more than anything for years. Perhaps the company was sucking his soul dry as much as the diner had drained Marge's. Regardless, his party plans had still been derailed, and he wasn't ready to let go of the evening's objective quite yet. "Look, I apologize for my little outburst." Donovan lifted his gaze, startled by how worried he was by Silver's possible criticism. "It's been a ghastly day, and I took it out on you." "Apology accepted. And now you know where I stand on bullshit. So that was a positive exchange." "And I took it out on you." "Apology accepted. And now you know where I stand on bullshit, so that was a positive exchange." Donovan couldn't get past how formal Silver came across, especially for a... He groaned as he scrubbed his face with one hand. Mechanic? Line cook? Clearly, his ingrained prejudices had sunk their claws into him and wouldn't be letting go any time soon. He started at the touch of Silver's hand on his wrist. "Are you all right? We can call it an evening if you're not feeling well." Donovan cleared his throat. Twice. No." He attempted a reassuring smile, but had no idea if he'd succeeded. "Nothing that a few martinis can't fix." Silver's expression...
"A few more martinis."
"You want to get him drunk, don't you?" He attempted a reassuring smile, but had no idea if he'd succeeded. "Nothing that a few more martinis can't fix." Silver's expression of concern changed to one of reproach. "No." Donovan stopped mid-butt-slide. "Excuse me?" "No more martinis, not when you're driving. Is there someone you can call to come get you if you have more to drink?" Donovan threw his hands in the air. "Oh, yes, that would be perfect. Let me call Mr. Report My Every Move back to my family to come get me. Wouldn't my father and brother have a field day with that?" Silver reached across the table, but before their skin could make contact, Donovan snatched his hand away. Silver sighed. "Talk to me. You're obviously upset, so let's figure out a way to make things better." Donovan spluttered and huffed as he tried to wrap his mind around Silver solving the problems of his 42 years' worth of crappy family life in a few sentences. "Oh, right. Make things better. That's a good one." He jabbed a finger at Silver. "It is what it is, okay? I don't come..." He jabbed a finger at Silver. "It is what it is, okay? I didn't come here for a therapy session, advice, or pep talk. I came here for one thing and one thing only." Silver smirked. "I have a pretty good idea what that one thing is." but I was hoping for a chance to get to know you better. I can't figure you out, although I think I might be getting closer to a clear understanding now. Donovan gritted his teeth and growled. You know what? Fuck you. I don't need your judgment or help or pity or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish here. I'm a top business executive at a highly prestigious company with a salary and trust fund that makes me wealthier than you could ever comprehend. I don't need your shitty advice, okay? I don't need anything from you. Got it? Silver gave a curt nod. Got it. He slid out of the booth and gazed down at Donovan, his expression back to being unreadable. Silver gave a curt nod. Got it. He slid out of the booth and gazed down at Donovan, his expression back to being unreadable. Silver's unaffected response to Donovan's verbal explosion made him want to rip his own hair out. Silver pointed a finger at Donovan, but the action wasn't done in anger. It reminded Donovan more of Donovan. Yeah. Rip his own hair out. Silver pointed a finger at Donovan, but the action wasn't done in anger. It reminded Donovan more of what a parent might do to make sure their misbehaving child understood they were deadly serious. No more drinks. Understand? You're too upset. If you don't trust your family's driver, then get an Uber. Silver waited a beat, then continued. Then take care of yourself. Before Donovan could respond, Silver had turned and was...
Take care of yourself.
Then get an Uber. Silver waited a beat, then continued. Take care of yourself. Before Donovan could respond, Silver had turned and was making his way swiftly across the room. Donovan dropped his head in his hands, perplexed by what had just happened. Enraged, yes, but also bizarrely sad. Fuck him. Why should he care about a stranger's opinion? What the hell did he know? Silver probably had a family who loved him, didn't have the important responsibilities that Donovan did, probably didn't know what it was like to have to be someone you weren't, to suck up the bullshit every single fucking day and ask for another serving with a smile. Donovan launched himself across. Fucking day and ask for another serving with a smile. Donovan launched himself from the booth and elected to take a spot at the bar. He wasn't about to look like some pathetic loser who'd been walked out on, nursing a drink all alone in the back of the local dive. He got the attention of the bartender. Silver couldn't tell him what to do. He knew his own limits. Another vodka martini, dirty. That would be the bartender. The bartender. Silver couldn't tell him what to do. He knew his own limits. Been walked out on, nursing a drink all alone in the back of the local dive. Been walked out on, nursing a drink all alone in the back of the local dive. He got the attention of the bartender. Silver couldn't tell him what to do. He knew his own limits. Another vodka martini, dirty? Yeah, make it a double. Tell me what to do. After he'd paid the bartender, Donovan stared into the cloudy liquid. He chewed on his lower lip, his gut clenching. This is ridiculous. He lifted the glass, but then set it down, perhaps a bit too hard. Some of the liquid sloshed over the edges, and he grumbled beneath his breath, snatching a few cocktail napkins from the holder at the edge of the counter. He mopped up the mess, then reached for his drink again. After a few seconds, with his hand hovering over the drink, he smashed his fist on the bar. God damn it! Ignoring the curious stares of the two patrons at the counter and the bartender who'd been talking to them, Donovan pushed off the bar stool, then marched out of the bar. Fuck my life and everyone in it. Donovan pushed off the bar stool, then marched out of the With his hand hovering over the drink, he smashed his fist on the bar. God damn it! Ignoring the curious stares of with his hand hovering over the drink, he smashed his fist on the bar. God damn it. Ignoring the curious stares of the two patrons at the counter and the bartender who'd been talking to them, Donovan pushed off the bar stool, then marched out of the bar. Fuck my stomach. Talking to them, Donovan pushed off the bar stool, then marched out of the bar. Fuck my life and everyone in it. Having a hard time flipping him from petulant to likable. Seemed like sad is the key there, but he was angry there, and that was a lot harder to make work.